Thank you. Quite an honor to actually open up for Dr. Judy Benz. Amazing. First of all, I'd just like to thank everybody for coming out. I guess I'm wrapping up the presentation, so before Judy gets up. I'd first like to thank Cassie Kemp, Archaeology Coordinator at the West Central office in Tampa. We worked together on this project, and I'd really like to apologize to Cassie first off because we worked really hard on a script that we're going to be doing for this, but I'm actually, in lieu of this script, I'm actually going to be singing Whitney Houston's Greatest Love of All while the slides go. I'm nervous. I believe, no, I'm just kidding. So really to follow up on Bob's talk, what this project was all about was an assessment of the sites within 2 aquatic preserves that are on the coast of the Central Region. We're updating site file forms and trying to get eyes on a lot of these sites, and we're working together with another government agency, FCO. So. Last year, FPAN staff began to communicate with the Florida Coastal Office, FCO based at Crystal River, in order to find a way to assist them in monitoring archaeological sites within the aquatic preserves they manage. Our hopes are to not only check out previously located sites added to the Florida Master Site File in the past couple of decades, but also look at sites that were added more than 50 years ago. And Cassie did a lot of research this last week, and there's tons of them that are very, very old that nobody has seen in a half a century. So that's going to be our prime focus. FPAN and FCO work together to come up with specific goals and a process for this new initiative, which we hope will eventually be used to monitor archaeological sites and aquatic preserves across the state. Those are the 2 aquatic preserves, Big Bend, Seagrasses, and then at the bottom is St. Martin's Marsh. And right in the center that's not covered is the Crystal River Archaeological State Park. FCO, as a branch of the FDEP, manages 2.2 million acres of submerged lands and coastal uplands and 8,400 miles of coastline within the aquatic preserves throughout the state. Within these areas, there are thousands of archaeological sites in need of our attention from various threats, and obviously sea level rise is a significant threat. FPAN Central is in the same building as FCO at the Crystal River Preserve Visitor Center. This provides us with a very unique opportunity to work with aquatic preserve managers and to implement portions of the Heritage Monitoring Scouts of Florida program developed by FPAN Northeast. This is a partnership we hope will spread across the state and be used at other aquatic preserves. FPAN's perspective is to view this collaboration through the lens of public outreach to land managers and assistance to DHR. We are furnishing AP staff with training and information so they can execute their objective as stated in their management plans. Goals are to verify location, assess condition, and estimate threat for each site within the APs. Information then will be used to update Florida Master Site File forms. In order to monitor the 500 sites in the APs, we came up with a process of 4 steps: mapping using ArcGIS, background research, fieldwork portion, and of course creating deliverables for FCO and the site file. We determined the physical boundaries of the 2 preserves, then figured out which sites fall within those boundaries. Using ArcGIS and shapefiles from the site file, we found 95 sites in St. Martin's Marsh and 381 in Big Bend. To make the data more manageable, we created cluster areas based on location. Managing the site data, I think, is FPAN's most important contribution to the partnership. These cluster areas were defined by FCO based on what was feasible to visit on a field day. We think this is the best way to organize the data on the front end. So for each cluster, we created a PDF map of all the sites contained in those clusters and a spreadsheet with more specific information on each site, including site type, evidence of human remains, latitude and longitude coordinates. This was also how we decided to organize all the data on our personal computer drives at the office. And managing this amount of data could easily become a mess without some kind of system in place. It's like I've got powers, go. In order to monitor recent threats and impacts, we did a lot of background research on what was known about each site. We downloaded site file forms, any associated survey forms, and other supplemental information such as pictures, etc. Again, this can be completely time-consuming, but breaking up the sites into these cluster areas make things far more manageable. We also used Google Earth. I don't know if anybody knew about this, but I didn't until Cassie pointed it out, that you can go back and look at historical areas to see how shoreline has changed throughout time. This adds just another layer of information for us to use during our assessment. And obviously being right on the coast, water movement is going to affect these greatly. We developed this monitoring program. When we developed this monitoring program, we realized that it wouldn't always be feasible for FPAN archaeologists to go out to these sites with FCO staff every time. So we developed what we call mission sheets, which are basically simplified versions of the site file forms. They remove the archaeology jargon and provide only information necessary for monitoring the sites. We're talking basic information such as location and the last time the site was visited, or the information was updated to the site file. The simplicity of the mission sheet is key. FCO can leave the updating and submitting of site file data to us. We'll take care of all of that somehow. That's yet to be determined. But the next step in the process is to actually go out and visit these archaeological sites and see what condition they're in. Our goals is to verify location, assess condition, and estimate threat for each site that we visit. For consistency, we use the form created for the HMS program. This form records information about the site, including overall condition, and if the site is evidence of past or present impacts by humans, erosion, vegetation, etc. The working HMS form is broad in what it covers, and not all fields are applicable to our project, but it provides an excellent platform for recording data. Next is the verification of the locations of that, which as any of y'all have been out looking at some of these sites, it's sometimes challenging. We use GPS coordinates, obviously, and also our eyes to go out and try to verify these sites. Now, based on site file information that we have, they're not always what they appear to be, so we have to actually get out there in person and look at these things. And for example, the midden was very small compared to how it was assessed on the entire site file. All of these sites we visited on our day in the field had some kind of threat, whether it was from erosion, human activity like camping, or overburdened vegetation. Some threats are far more obvious than others, and then the next slide, that's true, and a good example of that. Char Island, CI 417, human disturbances have increased at this location with active fire pits, modern garbage, and invasive plants coming most of the midden. We documented the site setting, vegetation, presence of architectural features, and documented cultural material present. This info is compared with site file data. Working with FCO will determine if updates need to be made to the site file on that. So obviously the next steps, we're going to try to get to all of those sites within the aquatic preserves, and there's nearly 500, so it's going to be quite a challenge. And really long term is to apply this process again to other aquatic preserves throughout the state, and we're going to love to work with other FPAN regions to implement that kind of progress. And it's like a built-in group. These aquatic preserve managers, they're already part of this is mandated, so us helping them out would be really appreciated. So thanks.